In this episode, 1. How can the West make China cooperate? 2. Sino-Russian cooperation versus growing regional alliances. 3. Recent Central Asian countries summit in Xian. 4. China's Uyghur issue and Muslim countries.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have a guest from Turkey. She is a scholar who's interested in the South China Sea and also spent time in Taiwan. It's Diren Dogan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's very good to be here.
Diren, would you please say a few words about yourself and maybe about your experience in Taiwan?
My name is Diren Doğan. I'm a lecturer in Turkey State University. I was in Taiwan in 2021 as a MOFA Fellowship, Taiwan MOFA Fellowship. And it was so good experiences for me because it was a COVID time, but I was fight everything to be a trip and to so many Taiwanese citizens to there, but it was so good. I'm focusing on South China Sea dispute, Chinese hybrid threats. Focusing on South China Sea dispute, Chinese hybrid threats, gray zone tactics, and a little bit I started focusing on critical infrastructure, especially in maritime domain. We start with NATO's CoE, Maritime Center of Excellence, with on study paper on the maritime critical infrastructure, and it's finished and it will be released in soon as it possible. And it's also so good topic and so interesting topic like South China Sea. And I'm so happy to study, focus on or write something on these topics.
Great, thank you very much. What do you currently think is the biggest issue and the major problem in the South China Sea?
I think the region itself a big problem because the South China Sea is really complicated area and each actor has their own claims in this region. But on the other hand, or on the other side, there are two important problems, I think. The firstly, coercion and gray zone tactics in the region. It's a big problem because China is one of the most important actors and pressing all other actors. And secondly, escalation that can reach a third world war in this region. It's also, I think, big problem. Today we are observing many complicated tactics in South China Sea, from artificial islands to the maritime militia or other hybrid threat instruments. And the interesting point is that UNCLOS is so weak in response to such a strategy. And I'm writing my Ph.D. thesis now, and I argue that I think we need new regulation to at least decrease this coercion, or we need new regulation not only in UNCLOS but also general international law, especially in South China Sea, in do something in South China Sea.
Yeah, but since China doesn't seem to be interested in new regulations, and they don't really follow, any agreements, even the ones they signed. So what do you think? How can we handle it? How can we make China more cooperative?
Yes, after the 2016 arbitration court deciding, we can understand that yes, international law so weak according to China, or China doesn't respect international law, but we can do something on general law, or we must do something. We must define, or the UNCLOS must define, for example, hybrid threats definition, especially in South China, or artificial islands, for example. They must add something in UNCLOS to do such these tactics. But when we look at the UNCLOS, there is nothing about this new generation of threats because UNCLOS is so old. It's 1972, 1978 rules. But the world is changing and threats is changing. We have now new generation of threats such as hybrid threats, and China is really good implementation, doing good implementation in this region. And if we want to do something, first we can start with we can try to do new regulation in the international law.
So you're saying that updating UNCLOS would be a good
Yeah.
first step. Do you think that the recent closer cooperation, let's say alliance, the Sino-Russian cooperation, the naval and air force cooperation, do you think this is also a challenge to Asian countries and the South China Sea, or is it just for show, or is there more substance to it?
I think yes, it's of course a challenge for these countries because the cooperation of Sino-Russian naval and air force can be perceived as a challenge to Asian countries and the South China Sea, especially due to military capabilities of these countries. It can show potential deterrence effects, impacts on alliances and partnerships, and wider geopolitical implications. But at the same time, when we look at the wider scale, such as the global security perspective, because China and Russia are one of the most forceful actors in the global system, and they are bringing criticism the current system. As you know, they are defending the multipolar global system. But we know that all power transition processes are so painful that affected not only South China Sea but also all system. And so we can say that it's a challenge for both South China Sea and whole global system. And we must be aware of this challenge, I think.
Good. When you see the recent, we could say there is like 2 points. One is the expanding regional alliances as an answer to China's actions. Then we have the just mentioned Russian-Chinese cooperation. So how do you see the development or the tensions between China and Russia versus the expanding cooperation of its neighbors, of China's neighbors?
It's, I think, important. I think it's so interesting. For example, I argue that the South China Sea dispute or the Asia-Pacific region or Indo-Pacific region shows the global system. And if there is a complicated area or complicated some things, we can understand that 20 or 30 years later, every global system, everywhere in global system will be show this.
Dear viewers, help us overcome algorithm suppression by liking, commenting, and sharing this important content, especially since we talk to world's top experts.
Actively this process, and now we can see that in Indo-Pacific we can see all actors such as the United States or United Kingdom or France, Germany, all countries and all actors like NATO. And this region, especially in South China Sea, respects, or is it not respects? Is it shown? I think yes, it's shown the general perspective of global system, global security system, and we must be aware that if we can do something in this region to properly working the system, we can solve the general global system security problems.
Yes,
I have
yes.
a good example in this point. For example, we have a agency dispute with Greece and Turkey. It's
Okay.
the South China Sea is more major version or big version of this dispute. And if we can solve the problems in the South China Sea, we can easily solve the problems in the Aegean Sea, because it's same problems. Just in the Aegean Sea, there's a 2 actor, but in the South China Sea, at least 5 or 6 actors. But they're really linking disputes, and we have many other disputes in the world, such South China Sea or Aegean Sea disputes.
Okay, thank you. And now, when a month or 1.5 months ago, there was this summit organized by Xi Jinping in Xian with the 5 Central Asian leaders, the stands. And how does this affect Russia's and Turkey's relations with those 5 Central Asian countries?
Yeah, it's so interesting question, and I will answer this question so naturally. But I want to explain first the
Yes.
perspective of Turkey, because Turkey has a really interesting position in the global system, and the Turkey is usually defines itself as a country that always looking west, but conducting a balanced strategy between east and west. And the West is very important for Turkey, because from the beginning of the founding Turkey, the Mustafa Kemal said that always we will look to West, but the East is growing, East is rising, and Turkey said that we are also a country that has a East culture, East population, and East history. And this balanced strategy from East and West is a general strategy Turkey and from Ottomans to today. So when we look at the China-Turkey relations or China-Russian relations, even a NATO country, as you can remember that we did a green deal with Russia and Ukraine, or we do something, but it shows from West perspective really interesting. It's same with Turkey. We can same steps. We can see same steps, or we can observe same steps with Turkey and China relations. But the important point is that, according to me, Turkey and between Turkey and Russia, China, I'm sorry, between Turkey and China,
It's okay.
there is chronic insecurity
Okay. Okay.
because of Uyghur issue, because of historical
Okay.
some experiences, or I can give explain. For
Okay.
example, I think 3 or 4 years ago we start to discussion with China to buy air defense systems,
Yes.
but we cancel it. Or our harbor project firstly start with China, but we take step back and we canceled it also. Also, we start the middle corridor
Okay. Why cancelled?
because of I think it was about Chinese. It's about humors on Chinese debt trap, or we want to be sure future of the
Okay.
China-Turkey relations. And it was a question for Turkey, according to me. I'm not sure, because I'm not this decision maker in Turkey, but in my observe, there was a big problem between China and Turkey. It's chronic insecurity problem. But we have the China has a good thing. It's money. And as you know, we have a like, economically weak country.
Yes.
And in trades, we can do everything. We are open, do everything with China. And as I know, the Belt and Road Initiative has a big project in Turkey. And maybe next time we can do more things with China, but also we have always Turkey's side has a security problem or doubt to the China.
So you mentioned the problem didn't work and the Belt and Road Initiative didn't work, and then you still mentioned the pipeline. What's with the pipeline?
Yeah, I think it is not didn't work, but the problem was that, for example, we announced our middle corridor project, and we suppose that China will be directly interest this project, but
Yes.
we understood that China is not willing to this project because they are working the North Corridor. But
Okay.
after the Ukrainian war, the northern corridor was broke, as you know, and it's not worked. And the China turned to face to middle corridor project.
Okay.
And after this time, Turkish-China relations stepped one forward and started good relations, but not politically, but other side. I think it's starting with just economically, because we need good money, we need good
Yes.
less income, and
Yes.
China is a good credit, but it's also the question for Turkey.
Okay, you mentioned one thing. I'm curious about the Uyghur issue, the
Yes.
Muslims in China. Why do the you know let's say Arabic countries, the Muslim countries, why do its neighbors, let's say from Northern Africa, they are reluctant to condemn China? They seem so friendly and never mention this topic.
Also, Turkey never mentioned this topic.
Yes.
I think the problem is that we have a big border dispute in our Syrian dispute, and YPG or PKK issue.
Yes.
And as I know, China directly said that if you touch our Uyghur issue.
Dear viewers, help us overcome algorithm suppression by liking, commenting, and sharing this important content. Especially since we talk to world's top experts.
It's our issue. We can touch directly your PKK issue or YPG issue. But I am aware that I think that the next times, 1 or 2 years later, we will directly focus on Uyghur issue because, as you know, our foreign minister is changed, and the new foreign minister Hakan Fidan is the person who is coming from intelligence, the
Okay. Yes.
agency, and he
Has a
he's
firmer
I think
stand. It's more
yes.
decisive.
I feel it. It's not, but I feel it. Maybe we can do more steps on this issue. But the Turkish policymakers think that, I think, because I listened to Sinan Oğan, who is the one of the important politicians and nationalist politicians in Turkey, say that yes, we want to touch Uyghur issue, but we don't want to do something because of the United States strategy. Yeah, Turkey say that okay, Uyghur issue is important for us, but we must take step for just Uyghurs, not other states' policy. And we don't want to do something opposite to China, but China said that the Uyghur issue, like Taiwan issue, it's my red line, and you couldn't touch it. You hadn't touched it. I think we must solve this problem, and next time, I believe that we will do more brave steps. I believe that. I hope.
Okay. The last question I have to you is, we kind of discussed it a bit. Like, how does the Sino-Russian cooperation affect Turkey as a neighbor of NATO? Like, how does their closer cooperation affect you as a NATO member?
I think Turkey is a very interesting member of NATO because we're different member of NATO, and all sides can respect this stand of Turkey. For example, when Turkey last week, as you remember, invite the Ukrainian President Zelensky to Turkey and sent back all prisoners to the Ukraine. Russia said that we are respect the decision of Turkey because Turkey is one of the NATO ally, and said that we are willing to see the participant of Ukraine NATO, and Russia said that yes, okay, we are respecting Turkey. I think Turkey waiting all actors to do same thing. But the problem is that the global system is changing and polarizing. And one time it will become, and these polars will ask to Turkey, according to me, let's choose your side. Which side? The Russian Chinese side and multipolar or the other polar global system, or the United States or West side. And it will be a big problem for Turkey because Turkey, as I mentioned before, always be powerful when Turkey stands balance in these polars. And now in the China and Russian relations with Turkey, Turkey stands little bit back not directly attend all relations with Russia and China, but showing respect these relations. And if they invite like Shanghai Cooperation Organizations summits or some organizations, but East organization summit, Turkey showed that yes, okay, I'm willing to attend this summit as a Western or as a NATO member. But when NATO countries say that China is a challenger for global system, and Turkey say that yes, China is a challenger for global system, and we must do something. It's important, and it mustn't be mixed, I think, in the foreign affairs Turkey.
Diren, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm so happy. Thank you very much.